Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, I couldn't join you today for the conference because of some unexpected circumstances, but I'm very happy to share my presentation with you today. So my name is Natalia, and I now currently live in Melbourne and work for the University of Melbourne. I work with local museums to advance their use of digital technologies, and in my research, I explore how computational methods can be used to investigate museums as new actors of creative economy. Today, I would like to share with you my project, my current project that I developed in collaboration with the Australian Centre for the Moving Image. And this project is developing an online application, Museum Soft Power Map. So my agenda for today is to, first of all, present you my conceptual framework and introduce you to some key concepts that I use in my digital mapping project. Then I will give you some more details and context of my pilot project, which I developed in collaboration with Acme. And finally, I will demonstrate you the digital mapping system. So, what is soft power? Soft power is the concept developed by the American professor Joseph Nye to explore a country capacity to exert influence upon other actors and upon other societies through persuasion, attraction, and agenda setting. In the recent decades, soft power as a concept started to be employed very often, not only in relation to countries as the main actors of cultural diplomacy of soft power, but also in relation to non-state actors such as museums. For example, Lord and Blackenberg, in their recently published book, which is called Museums, Cities, and Soft Power, argue that in the 21st century, museums are transforming from sites of branded experiences to places of soft power. Indeed, in the era of digital globalizations, museums transform from publicly funded cultural repositories of heritage to independent or active actor in creative economy and centers of soft power. Museums can exert soft power by mobilizing their audiences, by attracting international tourism, by generating large economic impacts and contributions to the city economy. Also, they become the centers of innovation, of technological development and progress. And of course, they are sites of the most important mega cultural events that are happening on national and also international levels. Even though the concept of soft power is employed by museums to kind of explore their contribution to tourism development and urban regeneration, there is no a clear understanding among academics or among cultural practitioners or among our government sectors what exactly is this museum soft power, what are the main resources of soft power, how it can be defined, how it can be understood, and how it can be measured. So to address this problem, I decided to develop this computational system that can map, visualize, and measure soft power of museums. And this system will allow to identify specific indicators of soft power influence and also explore these indicators in correlation with different other variables and factors that affect the museum's ability to generate its soft power. As a result, I developed this pilot project with the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, and this project that I'm currently developing with the centre is a single museum-focused digital mapping system that aims to geo-visualize soft power of just one institution, which is Acme. So the geovisualization system that I'm developing, it is based on the deep mapping concept, and that it includes multiple layers. So in my system, I would like to explore museum soft power on different levels. And this presupposes collection data and mapping museum collections in terms of their cultural and linguistic diversity. It presupposes a mapping online and on-site audiences. It also includes visualizing international ecosystems of museums by looking at their international engagements, partnerships, connections, exhibition travelings, and so on and so forth. All these different type of relationships that they develop on the global level. And finally, of course, international blockbusters. And the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, it has multiple exhibitions that are traveling around the world, and it also gives this very important component of the mapping system. So ACME as a partner in this project is a really excellent institution because it aims to be the leading global museum of the urban image. What is most important about ACME is that it's a very young, dynamic institution that was established in 2002, even though the archive of these museums stems from their state film center that was transformed into this new institution. Since its first foundation, it was located at the Federation Square, which is a very important landmark in Melbourne. Those of you who are from Melbourne or who has been to Melbourne, they know how important this place is because it usually gathers a lot of tourists, it usually gathers a lot of city residents for celebration, for protests, for events, and for different other activities. So these institutions located in the city center also aims to be very active in the international arena, where there are a lot of international programming that they are developing in collaboration with different partners. That's why it's so important in that project. So, and throughout my presentation, I would like to to expose you to my work on mapping ACME resources and ACME outputs and explain these implications for measuring and visualizing and mapping its soft power. The first research task in the project was mapping collections of ACME. And the ACME collections are quite diverse, with 200 items of films in the collections produced in around 50 languages. ACME actually has a quite diverse collection with the majority of movies produced beyond Australia. And this includes movies, of course, not only that were filmed in the United States or the United Kingdom, but also in Canada, in France, in Germany, in Japan, in New Zealand, in China, in Russia, even in Czech Republic. So the first idea was to map all this cultural and linguistic diversity of the collections. And as a result, I developed a geovisualization system, which is based on presenting collection appeal power index, which ranges from 0, the minimum, and to 100, the maximum index. What is this collection appeal index? Collection appeal index is the potential power of ACME to attract residents of a specific country with its collections. So, and to calculate this index, I consider two types of main criteria, and these are the collection criteria and, of course, social demographic criteria. This index is calculated as a weight sum of these two different set of variables. On the one hand, I looked, of course, how many films were produced in the ACME collections and how many films are in the spoken or spoken languages in this particular country. And from the social demographic side, I considered such factors as, of course, internet penetration and also ancestry, immigrants, and tourism. What does it mean? It means that I explore for each country on the globe where are on the globe how people from this country are engaged in the life of Melbourne and how are likely they are being exposed to such an institution as the Australian Centre for the Living Image. For that, I explored, for example, how many immigrants from this country reside in Melbourne, how many people who are born in this country who are now residents or even citizens of Australia and who live in Melbourne. How many tourists from each country come to this institution every year. So all these factors provided with very important details that I considered when calculating this index. So another layer, very important layer, that was adding some more information on the measuring and visualizing soft power, and of course mapping digital engagements. And this layer contains all the research tasks associated with identifying, measuring, scoping, and mapping online audiences. And by that I mean working with visitation statistics to the ACME website, and also looking at social media data that I collected from different sites where Acme has its institutional social media profile, which includes YouTube, extensive data on YouTube, because Acme is a film center, of course, it utilizes this channel to the maximum, and it has at least 2 digital channels representing its collections and its activities. So a lot of statistics I was able to get from YouTube specifically. Of course, Facebook, of course, Google Analytics that provided with the visitation statistics to the actual website of Acme. And also, which is very interesting, I looked at TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is a social network that is not controlled by the institution. And there I collected reviews, and I also explored the geographic diversity of people who submitted of these reviews. Actually, more than 1,000 reviews are available on TripAdvisor on Acme, and they are pretty diverse in their geographic locations where they come from. So as the result of this data processing, I was able to develop another layer on my soft-powered digital mapping system. And this layer is called Online Engagement Index. Again, this index is a weighted sum of different factors that are included in consideration when calculating this engagement power of online audiences. And I looked again at social demographic statistics and at institutional data collected from different social media or digital channels from Acme. So on the institutional side, I calculated Word Audiences Index and YouTube Index, Facebook Index, and of course TripAdvisor Index. And of course, I did it all in correlation with the internet penetration rate to each particular country, and also looking at the population size and density in these countries. So if we actually combine both layers, because it is possible, on their mapping system, because the whole idea is to explore all these different data on different levels in correlation to each other. And when I actually started to combine both levels together, such as Collection Appeal Index and Online Engagement Index, I already discovered a lot of interesting information. For example, if we look at the UK, the collection appeal power index of that country is pretty high. It's around 80-something, 89. And their appeal in terms of online audience engagement index is also very high. So these correlations and this kind of information shows that our predictions or our propositions that collection would appeal the most to the UK were quite accurate. However, when I looked at the majority of the African countries, and as you can see on the map, the intensity of the blue color indicates there are the higher degree of collection appeal power index. So some are, or not some, a lot of countries in the African continents actually are marked with a very strong blue color, which means we calculated that the potential appeal of the collection would be high in these areas. However, when we correlated this information with actual social media audiences, engagement, and profile, we understood that our predictions were completely wrong. So the collection power appeal index actually takes into consideration the linguistic factor as the most powerful. So our proposition was that if the collection is in the language that is spoken in this country, that the probability of the engagement with the collection would be much higher. However, as this correlation of two layers shows that the linguistic factors is actually not the main variable that affects the generation of this attraction influence. And there are some other important factors that we should consider. And in order to address this problem, I also developed another layer in my mapping system, which is mapping international partnerships. And mapping international partnerships or international museum ecosystem presupposes at looking at links created between the Academy institutions and all our other institutions around the globe that are connected through different exchanges, through exhibitions, exhibitions, through professional engagements, through different other types of programming. So as the result of this digital mapping of partnerships, which I conducted by collecting all information about their partners from annual reports. So the exploration of 16 or 15 annual reports was conducted in order to tease out these important details. Who are their partners? What they're working on, where exactly on the map they are located. So as the result, I developed this new layer on the digital mapping system, which is called International Connections, and which actually visualize all these links that exist between ACME and all other museums, other cultural heritage institutions, film centers around the world. So this exposure revealed that the majority of ACME partners are located, of course, not in Africa, but in the European region and in the North American region. These are the geographic areas where Australia is connected to the rest of the world the most through different partnerships and relationships developed throughout years. So this information, of course, added new details on soft power development. However, a soft power digital mapping multi-layered system is not a completed project, and there are new layers that I'm working right now on developing further. And of course, one of the most important layers that I would like to develop in my next step is mapping international exhibitions or mapping international blockbusters. So starting from 2012, ACME developed at least two the most powerful international blockbusters that went global and that have been hosted by now by 16 museums around the world in about a dozen of different countries. So, and what is interesting in each specific city, these exhibitions attracted different amount of audiences and generated a different economic revenue through tickets sales and through different services provided within this area. And that led me to explore this specific local attraction power of ACME exhibition in relation to very important variables such as the cultural diversity of the city, population of the city, global connectedness of the city, cultural participation, cultural vibrancy, and all other important factors that I think were critical in developing this various level of a soft power generation in this specific location. However, this layer is not visualized yet, and I'm working on that right now because it will actually presuppose going to a completely new kind of zooming in dimension of the program, which I still need to think about how it can be better visualized. Another mapping layer that hasn't been developed yet because there is a lot of data and it still needs digging further is the mapping of on-site audiences. So ACME provided me with records for at least, I think, a decade of their on-site visitations, and this visitation is actually distributed according to the zip code of these people that coming from different parts of Melbourne and different parts of Australia. So the whole idea of this on-site mapping, on-site audience mapping, is to look at these neighborhoods or these boroughs where these audiences come from, and to explore their cultural and linguistic diversity by correlating two types of data: the visitation from this zip code area and social demographics or analytics from this zip code area. This will allow to see who are those people who actually visit ACME. What is their cultural background? Because Melbourne and the whole Australia, like many countries already around the world, are very multicultural. Different boroughs are associated with different cultural communities. For example, there are Chinese communities or Russian communities or Polish communities or Italian communities. And it is interesting to explore this geographic diversity of these communities within the Lake Melbourne. This is another task that I'm working on right now. And finally, which is very important, is developing a digital storytelling component of the system. Because right now, the system, what is actually lacking is it's lacking an in-depth explanation of all this information that I tried to present you on the visualization system. I think it will be very relevant and very interesting, very useful to our kind of develop this narrative around collections, narrative around engagements, narrative around audiences that could tell a researcher or any other interested individual who is exploring this program more details about soft power generation. So this is, as you can see, my project is still in progress. However, I really hope that as the result of this pilot, I will be able to develop a digital mapping system using soft power map for a universal use of museums around the globe. So this is just first step, and first step is still in progress. Anyway, I hope that it was an interesting presentation for you. I'm ready to discuss all these questions further or answer all your questions, and I'm available if you send me an email or request a Skype meeting. I would be happy to discuss all these questions further. So thank you so much for your attention, and I wish you to have a very pleasant experience at the conference. Thank you.